But let's get into the player ratings, guys, and let's start off with big Fraser Forster. 8s all round for Fraser. Kept us in the game towards the latter stage. It was an unbelievable save where Drezzers looked like he was going to score. And made a few comfortable and big saves for us throughout the game. And look, since Vicario's been out, he's pretty much been our best player every game.
Yeah, done well. Fair play to him. Big save right at the end to earn us a point, which was a big moment in the game. I think throughout he had to be at his sharpest. I think obviously he had some nice kind of passes with the drop kicks that he likes to do, which is good. Obviously he was put under real pressure from Porro right at the end when he volleyed that pass back to him, and he had to kind of make the most of it and to stop kind of a disaster happening. But yeah, big Fraser, another good performance from him, and he's probably our form player.
Yeah. Pedro Porro up next. Him gives him a 4. I gave him a 3. I mean, the guy's shattered. He is absolutely shattered. But look, you got to call out the performance for what it is. And for too long now, it's not been good enough for Pedro Porro. I thought it was a really frustrating display. Really frustrating. Making the wrong decisions consistently, rushing things, booting the ball up the pitch when he didn't need to do it. Completely open on that side as well defensively. I did think he grew into the game a little bit in the second half, but still wasn't good enough.
Yeah, ever since that City game, he's just dropped off a cliff. It's been it's very worrying, no doubt about it. He's been pretty much putting in disaster classes for the last 4 games now, and something needs to give. I'll be interested to see if Ange does start Spence on Sunday, which
surely
I think
he has to. Surely,
with a big game against United coming up, I mean, we have to do something because we can't play him in both those games. Surely, so. He needs a rest, but yeah, he was making such poor decisions. And was speaking to Porro after the game about the poor decisions he was making, and I do wonder if it's mental fatigue as much as it's physical fatigue from him as well. But yeah, another poor performance from him.
Radu Dragusin up next. 7s all round for Radu, and I thought he played a really important role for the team yesterday. If it wasn't for him, it could have been a lot more. I mean, Rangers had a lot of kind of possession and they were peppering us a little bit, but didn't create too many chances, and I thought a lot of that was down to Radu and his leadership at the back, and he was kind of guiding Archie Gray, and so many important interceptions he was making throughout the team in an aggressive defensive display.
Yeah, as the senior centre-back on the day, he had to be at his best, and he had to make sure he's helping Archie Gray as well. And I thought they developed a decent partnership. Obviously, Gray has got good passing ability, so he allowed Gray to kind of fulfil that role, and Dragusin was kind of being the guy who was being aggressive and winning headers and things like that. So fair play to Dragusin. Again, not an easy circumstance, partnering with a 18-year-old kid who's not a natural centre-back, but I thought he managed him well through in the game and managed himself well.
Archie Gray, 7s all round for Archie. Coming in, unnatural position at centre-back, and I thought he did a lot better than I expected him to do, to be honest. And I felt, particularly in the first half, he kept winning headers. And against an aggressive Rangers team, which was really impressive for an 18-year-old coming in at centre-back when he's a natural midfielder. He's played right-back and now he's played centre-back. And he's done all to a fairly good level. So I'm impressed with Archie. He was also... Look, he didn't cover himself in much glory for the goal that we conceded. But apart from that, I thought he handled himself really well.
Yeah, definitely. And I was really impressed with him. In a game where... I think maybe even if he had a natural defender there, they might have crumbled in that situation. Intense atmosphere, really difficult place to go, not your natural position. He's only played there a handful of times in pre-season, and look, fair play to him. Stepped in. He looked like he could have been a centre back on the day. I wouldn't say he was like he played there as if that was his position, but he looked composed, he looked comfortable, he didn't get overawed by the occasion, and he did really, really well. So fair play to Archie Gray, because it could have been a really difficult day for him. It turned out he did well.
Destiny Udogie up next. Him gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. Not that impressive from Destiny, unfortunately. I thought he'd given a torrid time by Cherney on that right-hand side. He seemed to have the beating of him. Going forward, he couldn't really seem to make any sort of impact. So, yeah, another subpar display from Destiny.
Yeah, I think Cherney gave him a tough time. He really struggled down that side, and they were able to get balls into the box. So again, not too many chances. He had a couple of shots on that side, but Destiny again, another one probably physically struggling a bit at the moment, and another game where he just wasn't great, to be honest. So yeah, gave him a 5.
Yves Bissouma up next. Him gives him a 4. I gave him a 3. Yeah, he has been playing a lot of football recently, but you got to be better than that, man. You got to be better. He was tasked to be aggressive in the middle of the park, and the middle of the park was just an open, gaping hole. And Bissouma was a massive part of that. He wasn't aggressive enough. He wasn't good enough on the ball. Just a really, really poor display.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, as you say, another player. I'm sorry, another player who's playing a lot of football right now, especially with Bentancur's suspension, but he just looked a bit all over the place, losing 50-50s, wasn't physically dominating. When Bissouma's at his best, you really expect him to assert himself on the game, and he just didn't. He looked just didn't look like he was up for it. And Ange was talking about players, not just Timo, who he feels like should be stepping up more, and I think Bissouma's probably one of them he's looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Bentancur up next. 5s all round for Rodrigo Bentancur. And I felt like in the first half he was one of our better players. He put in a really big shift at times. He didn't look completely fit, which was strange to me. But in terms of winning headers in the box, in both boxes, to be honest, he was winning headers from set pieces. There was one moment when he was able to wriggle his way around the back as well on an attack in the first half. But in the second half, he just seemed to lose everything. And, you know, he got taken off, and quite rightly so, because he was nowhere in that game in the second half.
Yeah, got taken off of the hour mark, and that tells me, especially for a player who's not playing a lot of football at the moment, what Ange thought of his performance. Because for a player that should be one of the fresher ones in the team, especially when we're in a stage where we're out on our feet, for him to be taken off on the hour, I think is quite significant. As you say, I thought he was one of our better players in the first half, but second half, again, we just allowed them to dominate our midfield, and he wasn't able to get the ball forward or really kind of assert himself. So taken off on the hour.
James Maddison, 4s all round. Another senior player that didn't really turn up yesterday. And, you know, we saw a lot of the ball, and he just couldn't make anything happen. I just feel like he was trying stuff, but nothing was coming off for him. And another poor display for James Maddison. Yeah,
and I think Maddison, poor performance. I mean, it's easy to say that about a lot of players yesterday, but yeah, he wasn't on it. He had that one shot from a free kick, which went over the bar. Apart from that, obviously he stayed on for 90 minutes, didn't he? I don't think he went off, and wasn't able to create much. Wasn't even involved in the goal we scored, I don't think. Just quite.
The only involvement he had was the dummy / getting fouled.
Yeah.
That was his involvement of the whole game.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, he got fouled. That could have been a penalty if Decky doesn't score, I think.
Yeah. Brennan Johnson up next. 3s all round for Brennan. Another ghost display from Brennan Johnson. He just failed to make any sort of impact within the game. Had a couple of chances that he fluffed his lines with, but from a general game state play, he pretty much did nothing.
Yeah. He missed that chance in the first half, which was offside. He missed another one in the second half, which I think was a pullback from Decky, and similar to the one against Roma, he could have tried to hit into the corner, misses it, and then apart from that, did nothing, really. Just anonymous. Played him on the left in that second half for a bit, which I didn't understand at all. Just not a good performance from Brennan. In these kind of games where we're struggling to keep the ball, he can be a bit anonymous.
Son Heung-min, 4s all round for Sonny. Unfortunately, not a good display from him either. Started off in the number 9, which just wasn't suited to him, particularly in a game like this where coming up against such an aggressive team, there was literally no presence up top, and he was the man that was supposed to provide it, which he never was going to do so. Moved over to the left-hand side in the last half an hour, and I thought he got a little bit better, but still couldn't make any sort of impact, couldn't really beat his man. So unfortunately, a poor display.
Yeah, well, couldn't get involved in the game. His performances up front have been really poor recently, to be honest. Lack of ability to hang on to the ball. I felt like last season when he was playing up front, he used to do these like smart little flicks and making sure that we're retaining the ball higher up the pitch on occasion. He's just completely gone out of his game now, I feel like, at this point when he's playing up front. As you say, when he went on to the left, I mean, a bit better, but again, I don't remember too much he did, to be honest, when he was out on the left as well. So just wasn't a good game from Son. Yeah,
that was just that one pass from the left-hand side, which played us into the box. That's all I can really remember. It was actually a really nice pass. But Timo Werner, 2s all round for Timo. He got criticised in a massive way by Ange Postecoglou in the post-match press conference, and whether you think it's right or not for Ange to do that, he was worthy of the criticism, let's be real. Shocking display. I actually thought he started the game fairly well in the first 5 minutes. He beat Tavernier out on the outside, on the left-hand side, putting a cross into the box, but that's the last we really saw of him. Every time he got the ball, he lost it, whether it was a terrible pass or he was running the ball out of play. Shocking display for one of the players that have played one of the least amounts of football in the starting lineup yesterday. So quite right, he got hauled off at half time.
Yeah, shocking display. Looked like he didn't want to be there, to be honest. Dribbling the ball out of play yet again. Classic Timo. Not the first time we've seen that. It's just another. I mean, look, you could argue he could have hauled up a few players at half time. Wasn't just him, but he was again really bad. Then the difference between him and the other players is he's not been playing as much, and he should be fresher, and he's just not at the moment. And he's just not contributing what we need him to contribute right now, especially in such a difficult period. So, yeah, poor. Very, very poor.
In terms of the substitutes, Dejan Kulusevski came on at half-time. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. Obviously, clawed us back into the game with that goal with about 20 minutes to go. I actually felt like he wasn't great when he first came on, or when he got moved over to the wing. But with half an hour to go, I thought he was our best player by a long way. He created three chances for us, which is more than any other player on the pitch for Spurs and Rangers. And he just had this air of, I'm just going to make something happen. And he was the one that put it in the back of the net as well, and a really nice finish. So he seems like one that just really wants it for this team, and he kind of steps up even when he doesn't play well. You see some signs of quality and someone that's really trying hard and busting a gut for the team. So I gave him a mark up for that as well.
I mean, the goal was all him, wasn't it? I mean, he played it through to Solanke. He followed up with a brilliant one inside and a brilliant finish from him. So if it wasn't for Decky, I don't think that goal literally all went through him. So brilliant stuff there. He set up that chance for Brennan as well, which Brennan should have been doing better with that chance. Should have been getting on target. And he made a real impact. He was actually able to keep the ball. He was actually able to shield it away from some of the Rangers defenders, which none of the front three were able to do before that. Just made a massive impact on the game. As you say, for the first 10-15 minutes, it wasn't brilliant, but as the half wore on, he just grew in influence. And he's the only player who's every game keeping up his standards at the moment.
Lucas Bergvall up next. 7s all round for Bergvall. He's coming on. He's making an impact in the last 3 games now, and he got half an hour, and I thought, he just brought calm and measure, ability on the ball. His passing is top notch. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Lucas Bergvall at the moment, and he's got to start on the weekend.
Yeah, I think last 3 cameos from him have been really, really positive, especially considering they've been important, not like a difficult period for Spurs. I think he's come on, showed a lot of composure, as you say, some calmness, just keeps the ball ticking over, progressing forward nicely. Where in other situations, we've got players like Basuma and Bentancur at the moment who just weren't able to do that on the day. Also showed a bit of aggression. I know he got booked, but he's getting himself about as well. And so the last 3 cameos from him have been really positive. So I want to see more of him. Could be a good could be a good time to do it on the weekend, but it's also a massive game for Tottenham. We need the win, so it's going to be interesting to see what Ange does.
Pape Matar Sarr, Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 6. In terms of Sarr, he provided something the team that desperately needed in that moment in the game where there was just a gaping hole in the middle of the park with Basuma and Bentancur there. And I felt Sarr kind of did close that gap, and he came on, he provided legs in the middle of the park, but didn't provide too much quality. I think he just added something that we desperately needed, and that was legs in the midfield.
Yeah, I agree. He was able to get around the pitch a bit more, made a couple of tackles, but I can't remember too many good footballing moves he was involved in. I don't think it was like a return to form or anything, but I think he helped stable it a bit in the middle.
Dom Solanke, I think the last player that we're going to rate. 6 all round for Solanke. Again, he came on and just provided something that the team desperately needed, and that was a presence up top, a physical presence. And we were able to make it stick a bit more. We actually asserted our dominance on the game as soon as those changes were made. So it was definitely the 3 changes that were desperately needed for the team. And he also provided a really nice assist for Kulusevski. Great pass through the legs of Maddison, and then Kulusevski obviously finished it off. So, look, it wasn't brilliant by any stretch of the imagination for Solanke, but again, a bit similar to Sarr, just provided something the team desperately needed.
Yeah, and obviously in the big moment, it was a good pass, whether it was probably intended for Maddison, but it fell to Decky, but obviously he was big from him running in behind and making that space. And he was a presence up there. I don't think he did anything particularly amazing, but I think he just made that difference when he came on. Just a bit more aggression, that bit more steel, which we were massively lacking with him off the pitch.
Yeah. And finally, Ange Postecoglou, 5s all round. Can't seem to stem the tide of this rut we're in at the moment. And I felt like when you're looking at the team lineup, I thought it was a bit peculiar to play both Bissouma and Bentancur. Even though Bissouma is suspended, I feel like Bissouma has been playing a lot of minutes. There were other options. He did say that Bergvall was going to start, but he was suffering from illness, so I guess I'll give him a pass on that one, because Bergvall obviously couldn't start the game. Sonny up top, I didn't really understand, with Will Lancashire and Dom Solanke on the bench. I know Solanke's been playing a lot of minutes, but Will Lancashire played out in Galatasaray, so why not play him out in Rangers? I know it's an important game, but still, he scored in Galatasaray. He had an okay performance against a lesser opposition in Rangers. Why not just stick him in there and see what he can do? And you've always got the option to change it, because Sonny just didn't provide anything for us. You know, we keep playing these same players. I mean, there's nothing we could do about Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie. They have to play. We got no backup fullbacks because of the injuries and the squad selections. So I didn't have too much problems with the starting lineup. It was definitely a team that could have gone out there and put in a better performance than we did. I did have a massive problem with the change at half time. I just didn't understand it. Like, we've seen that Brennan Johnson on the left does not work. Why does he keep persisting with it? It just doesn't make sense to me. So that change did make no impact in the game whatsoever. However, I felt that the changes that he made with half an hour to go did positively impact the game, and I think those are the changes that actually clawed us back into the game. So got to give him credit to that. But yeah, it's just frustrating at the moment, and he's showing a few signs of conflicting signs in terms of what he's talking about in his press conference. How before the game he's saying he wouldn't call out a player or publicly call out a player in his press conference, and then does exactly that after the game. So yeah, contradictory from Ange. Is that signs of someone cracking under the pressure? I don't know, but he's not managing the team that well at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't understand playing three players out of position in a front three like he did at the beginning of that second half. Son up front, Brennan on the left and Decky on the right, when we know Decky's best in the centre, Son's best on the left and Johnson's best off the right. So I don't understand why he felt the need to play all three out of position. It just didn't work at all. But as you say, when he made the changes, that was really positive, impacted the team, and we got the goal through it. A really nice team goal as well. And it's a decent point at the end of the day in trying circumstances where we could have easily lost and probably should have lost. He did well just to get a point there, but definitely performances again lacking, really struggling to maintain any sort of intensity or aggression on the pitch, and it showed again. Rangers were well up for it, winning 50-50s, and we lacked that intensity, and he just, at the moment, he can't seem to get a team on the pitch that kind of needs that intensity that he wants. And look, he's got to take the blame for it, obviously, but we are on our feet with lots of injuries, so I feel for him as well. But sometimes he doesn't help himself.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is our player ratings for the Rangers 1-1 draw, which doesn't leave us in the worst position. So that's, I guess, a positive. And he has to start using his squad now in terms of Jed Spence. Like, I'm talking specifically about Jed Spence and Lucas Bergvall, to be honest, because with these guys need to see starts now over the next couple of games. We've got a massive game against Man United in less than a week now on Thursday night next week. And this game against Southampton, he has to play Jed Spence. He just has to. There's no other option. You're seeing how much Pedro Porro is struggling right now. You have to play Jed Spence. There is no other option.